Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Valorant Challengers in North America. 16 hopeful teams entered the stage one. Only 8 made it to playoffs, and at the end of the day, 2 will remain as we have our lower finals ahead. It's been such a ride. I cannot wait to dive into today. Sierra, Roy, and Dan. Dan, it has been so much fun. I cannot believe we're to the lower finals already.
Yeah, it's been happening really fast. And I feel like the players have also been talking about that impression. Obviously, when you make it to playoffs and when you make it to this last part of playoffs, you're playing every single day back to back to back. And you're hoping that you're getting those wins so you get a little day off, as we had it between the first day and the third day of this week. And as Shopify Rebellion Black will have since yesterday until the grand final. But it goes by so fast.
It really does. And you mentioned Shopify Rebellion Black. The reason they got that free day is because they're into the grand finals, baby. And right now we get to see who's going to be joining them. Pulling up this bracket, it's going to be the lower finals. There's only one match for us to be focusing on today, but it's going to be a best of 5 and it's going to be a banger.
Yeah, I absolutely love best of 5s. It's a real test of a team's depth. It's a real test of their adaptations. There's a lot more prep involved. It's not just a best of 3, right? Like you have to play out almost 5 maps if it goes the distance. So there's a level of prep. There's a level of mind game when it comes to the vetoes. But in terms of, this is the final stretch. Like this is it. This is what these players have been playing for. This is the lower finals. After that, it's only really just tomorrow's matches for the grand finals. And then we have our winner for stage 1.
And Dan, looking back at some of the teams that we had here in this playoffs, I mean, yesterday we saw Qbert Academy get eliminated for that. And the top team throughout this stage 1 is gone in that lower round 2. Like, this has been crazy through and through, and in a way that you never really know what to expect when you hop into these games.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, if I were to make a top 3, if I were to put my pick'ems as I thought things were gonna go, I would have put Qbert Academy, I would have put MV, and I would have put TSM. Those were my top 3, honestly, coming into playoffs that I thought were going to win it all, at least one of them. But instead, we have something completely different. We have Shopify Rebellion Black, who we know has been pretty consistent, and the match that we're gonna have today between Winthrop and M80. I love what I'm seeing from these two teams. I feel like they come from an insane growth that they had since the Swiss stage to now make it to the grand finals.
That's the key. It's the growth. I agree with your top 3, where my pick'ems also would have been going into this. But what these 3 teams, and we'll focus on this M80 and this Winthrop, what these teams have displayed throughout the playoff run, this spot has been deserved for them to be in the top 3. That is for sure, Roy. I mean, M80 is this team that going into the season, that there's a lot of expectations on. And then it was kind of, as there was a little bit of issues. And then they carried on through. And for Winthrop University, the biggest underdog going into this and the biggest surprise to be still at this point in the bracket.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely been a battle for these teams and a battle for us on the desk as well to sort of gauge what the power rankings in this league coming into it for the Swiss stage. But in terms of like expectations, I think M80 has far exceeded, despite all of the problems that they've had, despite all of the obstacles that have been thrown at them. I think they have exceeded expectations. They have bounced back beautifully. And Winthrop University, I mean, against no one expected them at all. It's against all expectations. They have surpassed it. They have shown a great form coming into playoffs. They've defeated some of the best teams that we've considered in this league. It's just in a clean fashion. And the fact that the level that they're showing here is impeccable.
Let's talk about this M80 squad first, with the team that obviously a huge legacy by this org here in Challengers and a lot of expectations, but a completely different look for the team. And being able to see this pick of players, Dan, that, I mean, B-Dog is someone that we've gotten to see the scene for a bit. We already knew how good he was. Sato from Ascension, there is so much talk, so hype. And then other names that maybe not quite on these top teams, but have really been able to prove themselves then and doubly so now.
I'm really happy with what we've been seeing from M80. I feel like this is a team that, as we just talked about, they've been growing so much. And I think it really showed on the match yesterday, right? When we had our questions about, okay, when is Sato going to be this Sato that we saw in Brazil? And we absolutely saw it yesterday.
Yep.
But on top of that, you had a B-Dog that was playing so well across the map, a Bao that was closing out rounds, and obviously Caillou and Okiatos having an insane amount of impact as well. The growth that this team has had is thanks to the coaching staff that we've been talking about since the beginning, and they have so many cool ideas, cool strats, and that's when you need them the most, right? When you're approaching these best of 5s, when you're approaching possibly a very long day of Valorant, and you want to be be always one step ahead.
This M80 squad too, this growth that they've had as it has been that waiting room has been really, really nice. And be able to see everything clicking together more and more, Roy, has been awesome. And looking back at their recent history, I mean, yesterday they eliminated Hubert Academy in this 2-0 fashion. And just throughout this, I mean, they've only been going up against the top teams, and with Shopify Rebellion Black, the ones that knocked them down into the lower bracket, it would be really fun to see them win here and try and go for revenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this team has definitely had the hardest matchup up until this point. I think that's the beauty of it, is that fact that they are undoubtedly one of the top teams now, at least in their current form, taking down Envy. Of course, the loss to SRB. I mean, the second map was extremely dominated by M80 as well. And then taking down TSM and taking down Cuber in a 2-0 fashion is a massive statement to this team. And of course, the one defining word that I like to use for this team is resilience. Just so many obstacles have been thrown their way in terms of role swaps, in terms of, logistics, in terms of, the roster. And it just really does feel like this team is just always growing, always having a great time. And it feels like a lot of these players, not just Sato, are really starting to feel comfy. And the level of play that they're showing and they have shown so far has been beautiful.
And again, it's about the scaling from M80. Looking back at that match against Cubert, a team that very well could have won this entire playoff things, Dan. This was such a strong victory. Sure, the maps, it's not like it was clean sweeps, but I think what was really impressive was how M80 was playing together. So when you're looking at the scores, I don't think that's necessarily quite reflective of just how dominant, how clean, how disciplined M80 looked in the server.
And also, it was a lot of these rounds against Cuber Academy coming down to the 1v1s, to the 1v2s, and every single time M80 were able to close them out, especially the bigger rounds that they needed to win. A big part of it was Sato. He really stepped it up yesterday. What we got to see on that first map of Split was unreal. He was every single time taking down Redux. The one player that you're thinking, okay, he's going to open the round for Cuber. This is how they're going to do step one, move into step two, slowly but surely secure the round, especially because this map for Cubert, they started on the advantage. It was a 5-1 on their side, and then things got really, really messy. So Sato with an unreal performance that I hope that we can see again today.
Yeah, and I'd also like to give a shout out to B-God as well, who had insane levels of impact on the first map, right? We saw so many of the rounds opened up by B-Dog on the lurk. Just his awareness, his situational timing, like a lot of the stuff that you expect from these players in their roles are really coming forward. And there's another player as well that we have hardly talked about just because he's overshadowed by so many stars on this team, and that's Bao, right? Bao had so much impact in the second map as well on Lotus. The same sort of story that B-Dog had in the first map, opening up lurk timings, entering on the lurk position. Like, so many of these things that make these teams dynamic are finally clicking for this roster, and they're really looking scary right now.
I love that call out for the other players too, really showcasing the strength across the board and not just with Sato. I know a lot of the conversation has been, hey, like, we're excited for Sato, but the rest of the team being able to put up such strong performances while we have been in this waiting room, and then the whole team clicking while Sato's been able to soar too, has just been really, really nice. And talking more about Sato and that performance against Cubert, I mean, Dan, this is where we really got to see more of the Sato that we saw in Brazil. This is the Sato that we've been waiting for.
Has been looking so good. That match yesterday was a statement match for sure for Sato and what he's capable of doing when it comes to getting the first kills, when it comes to helping out the team, when it comes to also being not being necessarily the one going in right away, but playing around everything else on the utility that the team is trying to set up for him. And it's just been great to see Sato right now. For the 3 teams that we have remaining, he's the #1 when it comes to first kills, and it feels like it's interesting because the first matches that he played in playoffs, it did not feel like he was having that kind of impact. But once you look at the way that he was playing yesterday, and then you look at the numbers from the previous matches, you start to get it. Even if he was having a little bit more of quiet performances, he still knows how to play, right? He still have the very clear understanding of, okay, this is what I have to do with my team. Whether I get the kill or not, at least they're going to trade me. And that's how the team has been adapting on the fly and has been improving so much.
Yeah, and really the impressive thing with Sato as well is the fact that it feels like he can open rounds in so many different looks. He can do it with set plays. He can do it with a rifle. He can do it with an op. There are some things about the op guys that is just so hard to teach, right? Like the instinct of how to get value from it, where to position yourself. Like who the heck plays behind a Sage wall in mid with an operator besides Sato, right? Like there are some things, there are levels of instinct that this player has that he's learned throughout different iterations of the rosters and in regions that he's bringing to this team that are just so special. And it's really the final icing on the cake that this team has lacked to really look like their best form. And it's finally here, it feels like.
The value that he gets in every single round, even when just insanely pressured, they can run him down and he's still going to get his 2 before he gets finally taken care of. And that pressure that he was able to put on to Hubert and just never blinking in the face of the pressure that they try to give back, I thought was wholly impressive, especially to like, he's like, okay, Redux is speaking this with an op. All right, I'm just going to peek with this Phantom. Don't, absolutely no issue. Like, it was so much fun to see. And I definitely know going to be a little bit of a thorn in the side for Winthrop University today. But this Winthrop University squad, I mean, they have definitely been the pain point for a lot of teams here that we've had in the playoff stand. This is the team that, again, there was questions about the strength when they qualified for the playoffs. Did they have as difficult as a run as anyone else? And they were the biggest ones to turn up here in the playoffs to prove that they wholeheartedly deserve to be here.
Yeah, because the first matches that they played and the matches that they were winning before we move into playoffs were those teams that were the first one to get eliminated. So we were like, okay, I mean, they might be in the mid-table, but that should be it for them, right? That should be your expectation for this team of Winthrop. But it was completely different, right? They start winning against those teams that get eliminated, but then they start eliminating the stronger teams themselves or sending them to the lower bracket, as we saw for TSM, we saw for Cubert Academy, and the only match that they've lost as of recently was obviously that Shopify Brilliant Black that we saw yesterday. Is still a Winthrop that, as we talked about and we've been mentioning, they're extremely flexible, they're willing, and they're wanting to make changes when things are not working out, and they might be on the fly. If one player wants to make a switch from one day to another just because it's more comfortable in one agent than the other, then they might just do that, and they're able to do this better than anybody else. So that might be the strength for Winthrop University coming into today.
You talked a little bit about the teams that they've taken down, but I want to bring up the graphic that really just displays this history and this insane run that they've had throughout this playoffs bracket. One that really showcases, yeah, this isn't a fluke. The matches have always been close, right? They'd love to put up a show, but like knocking Hubert Academy and TSM down to the lower bracket is a huge accomplishment in itself. And it was a loss to Shopify Rebellion Black, but I think Shopify Rebellion Blacks are the favorite to win playoffs at this point. So I don't think that's a bad loss at all.
Yeah, I mean, aside from their last match, they've been on an absolute tear. Like, look, you beat one top team in the league. Okay, maybe we can make the randomness argument. You take 2 of them back-to-back in playoffs, that at that point, we kind of just have to give them their respect, right? And I really do feel like, you know, they did have some uncharacteristic poor performances in their last match versus SRB, right? We're starting to develop a little bit higher expectations from some of the Winthrop players. But I don't expect the same thing to happen today. There's really just no way the level of talent that they have on this roster is going to underperform 2 days in a row. I have high hopes for them. I think this is going to be a close matchup.
Talking about that loss to Shopify Rebellion Black, I'm right there with you. I feel like this is a team that we've really praised for being able to shoot back. And it was something that we didn't really get to see that come to online until this map of fracture at a point where it was a little bit too late. And then questions too with kind of the map pools and a couple of these decisions, deciding to pick Lotus when it hasn't necessarily been the greatest thing, Dan. So I don't think they were necessarily set up for the most success yesterday. So yeah, I'm with Roy. I think that there should be a different story today.
And that's where it gets a little tricky, though, right? Because you're talking about this map of Lotus, you talk about them losing on Fracture yesterday as well. But then today you're playing a best of 5, right? So most likely than not, you're going to be forced into playing these maps where you were not comfortable yesterday. And so what's going to change from one day to another, right? Just a few hours of, okay, they finished the match, they had some time to talk, to see what they want to do today, and then just go back into this. If there's a team that has an amount of experience to adapt on the fly, it is Winthrop University. They are playing not only Challengers, but they play their collegiate matches, they play third-party tournaments, and they do this back-to-back as they're doing right now in playoffs. So that's where I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. What can they do? How much can they change from one day to another? Because I feel like they've done it in the past and they can do it again.
Yeah, that's a really massive shout out. I completely agree. I think Winthrop University is undeniably the team with the most match experience. They just play so many officials compared to the rest of the teams. And we got to remember, BO5s are a lot more of a marathon than they are of just a sprint, right? There's a lot more, especially if it goes the distance. There's so much mental resilience. There's so much energy you have to have. And these players are just so used to playing so many matches that I feel like that has at least a slight advantage.
And talking about one of the players, so let's talk about Infiltrator. We had highlighted Sato on the opposing end and how Sato was able to take down Redux at any point in the road. So now Infiltrator, Dan, it's where he's going to be able to step up to try and make sure he can match Sato and, I don't know, maybe try and be the top duelist in this match.
And that is very much a possibility, right? It feels like when Infiltrator's on, everybody's gonna know about it. He looks insane. He looks really comfortable playing a good amount of duelists as well, which is one of our talking points that we had yesterday, playing the Jet when he has to, playing the Raze when he has to, playing the Yoru as well, and kind of finding the balance of when they want to play these agents, because as we've mentioned, they're willing to change from one time to another. But I love to see Infiltrator play. I feel like he continues to be underrated, even though this guy is constantly fragging out.
Yeah, it's someone that, and I think it just fits into this whole theme that Winthrop University has, is just, you just keep underestimating them. You don't give them the proper kudos or anything else, and they'll keep showing up in silently. And I think Infiltrator has been so good for that. And someone that I think is going to be really important in this match to really be able to highlight that for this team. Because I feel like if this M80 squad start to get these first picks, just start to really just put that pressure on, and Infiltrator can't respond, I think that's going to be the most clear win con for M80 at this point. But talked about the best of 5 for today. Let's talk about the map picks and bans. Dan, we talked about if there is any weaknesses in this map, well, this is where we're going to see it. They'll have to see exactly how this is going to end up.
Yeah, especially you're playing all 5 maps, right? So your map will has to be strong. And if you have a lot of experience, and that's something that is gonna go on your favor. But okay, we got Lotus, which we just talked about at university, and I was having questions. So it makes sense. Is the M80, then Haven, Abyss, Pearl, and Fracture, and we were kind of talking about it. We haven't seen Abyss in such a long time, right? I feel like in playoffs we just haven't seen it at all.
Yeah, you know, I like this map pool. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Lotus should be really interesting. I like the fact that it's M80 picking it and not Winthrop University here, Roy. That's definitely makes you feel a little better. You know that they can definitely kind of stand up. But how are you feeling about this in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think this veto makes complete sense. The M80 ban on Bind, the Winthrop University ban on Split, those 2 maps make the most sense. Everything from there is really just a more of a comfort pick. I'm not really seeing like any sort of counter pick or anything significant like that. I think these teams are truly just playing to their own strengths, and it makes sense. It's a best of 5. There's definitely a lot more room to express yourself and just kind of play your own game. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that in this specific best of 5.
And I'm really hoping that we get to go the entire 5 maps in this series. I think that this map pool just in general is going to be a lot of fun. And looking at that Fracture for the decider, one that for Winthrop University, this is where they have upset some of those top teams when Fracture has been their own map pip. So I think that'll be really, really fun. But looking at the map pool for M80 and what we've seen throughout Challengers and stuff so far, it's going to tell a little bit more of the tale. The Fracture doesn't look so great for them, but across the board, like everything else except for Bind, no wonders that's banned out. Roy, it looks really strong.
Yeah, and just circling back on the veto as well, Lotus being the first map for M80, they've looked extremely dominant on it. Of course, they're able to balance multiple compositions as well. They pulled out a fresh comp versus Cuber Academy, going back to that double controller. They're feeling good. They're feeling confident on that map. And of course, Haven, the second map for that Winthrop University pick themselves. I just would like to remind us, they took down TSM 13-9 on that. And right after that, it was Cuber Academy 13-11 win on that map as well. So they're feeling great. So I think the first 2 maps that we're going to see are definitely probably the most confident and comfortable for these teams, like depending on who picked it. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of confidence going into those first 2 maps.
And looking at the map pool percentage, win percentages here on the opposing end for Winthrop University, that's the one that I'm intrigued with, especially looking at a 5 map series ahead. So going into this, I mean, they've played a lot of Fracture, so that'll be fun for the last one. But when we're looking at the Lotus, even though they've had the confidence to be picking it, it necessarily hasn't gone their way, Dan. So I'm still, again, intrigued. But that Haven, like that 100%, like, whew.
And there's also a big difference when you look at the numbers, because the last two matches for M80, they were 2-0 and 2-0. And for Winthrop, they've been going the distance. And that means they're forcing to those maps where they're a little bit more uncomfortable. Like you said, the fractures, they've been playing a lot. But I mean, you still see that 50% win rate. They did lose it yesterday. And it's a map pool where you need to be starting strong as we head into the second map as well. When we were looking at Haven, that is when I think what Roy was saying is going to be showing, right? You see the map picks and you see what the teams are going for these map picks.
Exactly.
They should be getting those wins, but I mean, we've also seen a Winthrop University picking Lotus and losing it. So it seems like there was a level of comfort there that was not showing up into their results. So I have a lot of questions of Winthrop. I just know that I need them to start strong if we want this series to go the distance.
100%, but we've laid out everything. Time to see for the predictions whereabouts could be stand. And I really don't think that there's going to be a surprise when it comes to prediction on the way that we're all voting here. Checks out. Yep.
Still Winthrop. Still Winthrop.
They've only let me down once, guys. Okay. So, I mean, I definitely think that this should be a great series ahead. I think yesterday's loss, I definitely still think it's a world where Shopify, Rebellion, Black can win because they just look so strong. But I do think that was a Winthrop University that was a little bit off their game.
For sure.
And I think, too, when this is a team that just plays nonstop Valorant between Challengers and Collegiate and everything else, that if we're looking at a best of 5, I think that they should be able to pull this out. And I feel even better now, having seen Fracture as that 5th map in the series. They can get this into this 5th map. I think that they should, Roy, be able to have what it takes to close it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for me specifically, and why I chose M80 is I just feel like their map pool is just a tiny little bit more fleshed out. And the fact that they can balance multiple compositions on each map speaks to their confidence, speaks to their flexibility and their level of adaptation that they're going to need to beat a team like Winthrop, who is also very flexible, who can seemingly change compositions, change agents whenever they want and still look incredibly well-versed and very confident. So I'm excited to see this matchup for sure.
All right, well, you're talking about agents, you're talking about compositions, and the match is almost ready. So let's head into the agent select for the very first map of Lotus. The fact that these two teams have been known to switch things up, either depending on the day, then just to make sure the agent pool is completely fleshed out. Always make sure that we gotta double check when we get to the agent select. What are our thoughts going into this?
Okay, so yeah, we had questions on if the compositions are going to change at all. I think I had my questions on this Clove pick that we've seen for Winthrop University, but honestly, they've been playing it the whole time. I was just wondering, okay, when it comes to a best of 5, when you're trying to get to the grand finals, is that going to change at all? And the answer is no. But on top of that, we have this duel that we've never seen before in Challengers. Sato against Infiltrator on the race. These two teams face each other in the past. It was an M80. He got the win 2-0, but Sato was not an M80 just yet. So it's the first time that we're going to be seeing this, and I'm so excited.
I mean, you're talking about the Clove not changing, but there is a little switch up here, Roy, with moves going to the Cypher. So pairing up against Sato on the other end, like, that one's going to be a little tricky.
Yeah, it's most definitely tricky. I think the Cypher is great for expanding the information network, but when it comes to the pairing into the Raze, I do feel like Device is slightly stronger in that respect, but I'm sure that Winthrop University is already taking that into account. They're going to be coming in with some sort of game plan, and I expect Boobs to have this already heads up, and he's going to probably adjust his setups.
But the thing is that this is also not new, right? We talked about Winthrop University changing this composition with the Cypher. Yeah, last time he was on the Device, but he's been on the Cypher on this map as well before. So it's something that they're used to, and it goes back to what he was saying during the interviews, right? Going back and forth and seeing what the vibe is and what he wants to play that day.
Well, hopefully the vibes going into the first map for both the teams are immaculate as our players are ready, and it's time to head into Lotus. A best of 5 series ahead in the lower bracket. Who's going to be the first to take down the first map? It's time to head over to our casters, Marks and Lemon Kiwi, to find out.
Thanks so much, Sierra. Yes, the Winthrop Eagles have been flying high ever since yesterday, while M80 took their most convincing win ever against Cuber. But only one can soar to the grand finals tomorrow.
I mean, M80, they got to be coming into this one feeling pretty good about themselves. And I'm genuinely curious how this is going to work out for them because like the desk was talking about, Winthrop University, it's a little bit different. Bringing in that Clove, bringing in that Cypher, two agents that you don't necessarily see too often in this map. And quite frankly, I'm not the biggest fan of this, especially too if you still are going up against the Vise that Val was going to be playing. I think that Infiltrator might be having a bit of a hard time here, but regardless, I'm willing to be convinced otherwise. Winthrop University starting us out on the attack. Let's see what they're made of.
Yeah, with this Sova from Nasi, you're just going to prefer a slower style. And you heard from Winthrop in interviews before that they just need to not be nervous and work the map more slowly and take things one step at a time. And that's great because M80 are running a double controller comp similarly as yesterday. And this is M80's pick. Winthrop also picked this map yesterday, but it did not go well. It was the toughest loss against Shopify Rebellion Black yesterday at 13-7 as the desk collaborated on. But first contact from Moobs, going for the double kill. And what an opener from the lurker of Winthrop.
Maybe just the Cypher pick was the truth, you know? Moob's able to start us out with 2 picks right off the bat. And you see that the Vise is going to be moving over to that A site. But M80, they're still holding strong at C. And that really is the right call. They're going to be walking into B-Dog and Okeanos. And you know what? That's the duo you want coming in on this defense.
Oh, and the call has been made, and the paranoia hits Winthrop, but it doesn't matter. B-Dog just gets run over like a train, and Okeanos can't do much of a dent being solo. What a commanding pistol round from Winthrop. Just moves, winning the 1v2. Winthrop on the left side of the map. Easy.
Yeah, easy indeed. And I think that this is Winthrop University starting themselves on the right foot. What Roy said is completely true. They need to get this momentum very early on in this series to make sure that they can continue things forwards, because I think that if M80 can pick up this first map, it's going to be looking pretty good for them overall. And all things considered, the statistics say 75% win rate for M80. That's pretty darn good on Lotus. So they think that there's a really good reason that they picked out this map.
Super strong map for M80. They've been able to hang back, and after kind of getting two-pieced over at A's side, M80 have already stacked that, playing off their Viper wall, but there's a sort of a pace you have to play at and a window of opportunity for Winthrop to engage depending on that Viper fuel and how they're able to track that. And this Viper wall seals off B and A, and this may allow for Okeanos to kind of go for a timing down mid and even go for a flank if they hear some action over at C. That door can be open from Okeanos, and he doesn't even have to come in. He can just throw the Prowler. Winthrop gonna knock the door over at C, and it's Caillou that has to limit that. Good timing on the orb, but tried to reposition and gets sprayed down. And at least you have the time to use the Owl drone just to make sure no one else is around, but this time now being wasted means M80 gotta cover up those gaps.
And M80 are going to be starting to scramble towards the site here, given the fact that they don't necessarily have the weaponry really to fight this one out, and especially with that man disadvantage. I imagine, too, they're just going to be kind of hanging tight, wait for that spike to go off, get caught in the explosion of it all, and make sure to pick up some of those ult orbs. Well, Winthrop University, I mean, if they're able to walk away with this one, it's going to be a full bonus into next round, and they're going to be sitting pretty.
Yeah, just to be running the double controller and the Vice on top of that, this is such a defense-heavy comp of M80, as Ali just sort of playing that secondary pseudo-duelist and is going to go on the hunt to get a double kill, and to farm those orbs is huge. Also, you want to be able to carry these weapons into the bonus, and it's a solid finish, and to even keep that Vandal from Nasi is awesome.
Yeah, Ali just ghost in hand, just walks forward, can't see a thing, just shoots out a couple of bullets, somehow finds a head in the middle of all of that. And Winthrop University, I mean, a commanding very first couple of rounds here. A lot of ultimate orbs picked up as well. They're able to get all the kills onto M80. Nobody left alive in the midst of that spike explosion. But this is going to be the one where we're going to be able to see them potentially turn around. If you tuned in yesterday, you know M80, they can start down, but they come back swinging hard. And so already we're seeing a bit of an aggressive play out front of A just for a bit of control, which will keep Winthrop University honest as they go for that reposition right towards Mound and potentially pressuring in onto C.
Winthrop have had issues converting their bonus round in the past, but with how many weapons they carried over, surely, right? But Winthrop have been separated by that Vice wall. And M80 haven't really capitalized on this because they're smoked off over at Waterfall. Meanwhile, Winthrop are trying to get some attention at B, and that's Moobs with the Outlaw. Kind of an awkward position to play it, so he's not going to be too aggressive. The plan goes down at C because there just hasn't been much of an answer from M80, despite having all this Sentinel util triggered and them having Phantoms bought up mostly. You would think M80 would go in with a lot more confidence, but taking one step at a time, playing off their Fade util, the opening pick from Val, the rest flooding in, and the headshot hits Infiltrator. But here's the off angle from, if anyone is popping off, why is it the Sheriff? And why is it Moobs? Yet another with a double kill. Insane stuff from Winthrop 3-0.
That was just unbelievable coming up there. Obviously, Moobs finding so many heads. Just goes ahead and clips all of M80 down. But I think that was a little bit of a misread from M80. Despite the initial contact, the first 2 rounds, Winthrop University were doing a really good job of conditioning them. They saw a little bit of utility towards that B site and immediately thought that there was going to be a reposition. Winthrop University have been running around the map, making sure they've got good control of things. And M80 just kind of took the bait. Like you said, Lemon, Winthrop University got onto that C site for free, had plenty of times to set themselves up, and they thought that they could just run them over with the guns, but Moobs keeps them nice and honest. Winthrop University up 3-0 now.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Winthrop just keep hitting C, and you got a crossfire set up. I'm liking this. B-Dog with the paranoia. Sheriffs have been popping off, but M80 forced to save is not ideal. Trying to be more proactive this time because the retake's not been successful. Prowler shot up close. Nothing else revealed from there on out. So M80 gonna sit pretty. And Caillou's job's gonna be to keep B sealed. But with just a Sheriff, you're not really gonna stand front and center. Halo drone. Oh, I like that cover though. Just playing off alley smoke actually. So Caillou's gonna be forced to play within the site, which retake as a team. He's gonna choose the safer play. And Moobs is still a menace. Like, he just hasn't lost a duel in quite a while. And this needs a plant over at B, and with the better weaponry, and you have Ali, the Outlaw, washing over this retake. 1 down, 2 more to go. With Sato at 3 HP, this is looking like a pretty cooked round for M80 to just maybe go down with the spike.
Yeah, and you see that they're not playing too aggressively. Sato going to be moving up here, seeing if they can potentially get a single kill maybe. That would be a little bit ambitious at this point, but Winthrop University are looking so clean on these opening rounds. The impact that Moobs has been having to consistently win those duels and consistently be on the flank cannot be understated at all. M80, they need to make sure that they're keeping Moobs in check because it's diverting so many more of their resources just to be so conscious about this flank watch. And Moobs is having a killer day already. 7 kills on the board. The highest on the side of M80 is only Caillou and Okeanos with 2 kills. M80 are getting completely rolled right now. And yeah, I think that this is a good call to call that timeout for M80.
Because yesterday, this was not the same Winthrop that faced Shopify Rebellion Black yesterday. And that was an SRB that played with a coach. And it's like, now that they so hard respect their opponent, that Winthrop are just full sending it. It is the lower bracket, so I respect it. They only gathered 4 rounds on their offense. And they've already are going to exceed that very soon, just where the economy's at, where the win streak is building up towards. And when you have your lurk going undefeated 7-0, it just gives you so many options of if C doesn't work out, you can go to B. And he's also been fragging over at A, so just so much map control is awarded to Winthrop because of Moobs.
Yeah, and like you can see that how Winthrop University want to play. It's very like Death Volley. Like, oh my goodness, there's 4 people just storming down the front door. And given the fact that they've got all of that map control, you see that clump of agents just walking around to all of these different sites. They're able to reposition at a whim. And you might think, okay, well, let's, use the Vise utility, make sure that that shear can really separate the squad, introduce a couple of wrenches into the gears. And M80 had that happen once, yet no follow-up was afforded to it. So this time, Sato, going to be going deep. This is going to be important to controlling a site. M80 have to do a better job at holding these angles on the map and forcing Winthrop into more chokes.
What a read from M80 to just be so stacked here, and the paranoia splits Winthrop apart. And we just, you know, we hyped up Moobs a little too much. Now he has to suffer his first death after. We just put too much pressure on him to go deathless. In the first couple rounds, still solid for Winthrop. They give up on A and they carve their way into B. And Caillou has a strong hold on that part of the map. So Winthrop are very limited on which lane they can really push through, and they could easily just open the door and run into C. But at this point, I don't know if we're even gonna see the spike enter a site.
It's the Sato special. Put a Phantom in his hand, or maybe an Operator, but just the Phantom this time around, and you get magic happening. Every single duel this time around, Sato able to find those marks super early on. And when Winthrop University get kind of picked off piece by piece like that, they have a much more difficult time trying to get anything online. They struggle to continue to maintain that map control, which ironically spreads them out even more, allowing M80 to just pounce on them no matter where they plan to go. So M80, they find themselves on the board. 2 ultimates online. They got that Nightfall, got that Showstopper. But on the other side, Winthrop University, they've got the Armageddon as well as the Hunter's Fury. So both of these squads right now looking to potentially invest in this round to make sure that they can break the economy of the other.
I like that Vice Wall from Bao, sort of interesting on that diagonal, not just like fully at horizontal at the choke, and this forced Winthrop to not be able to escape in that moment. So we'll have to keep note of that. And Infiltrator takes note of Sato. First blood, B-Dog gets out of dodge and gets sprayed down through the smoke. And Okeanos is still lurking around. While the wall was up, he was able to trade out and fall back into a safer position. The Prowler doesn't reveal anything too close, and as the Viper wall comes down, well, Winthrop are still there, and Okeanos is down. There's only one left from M80, and what a quick round. Look at all those blue X's just completely dismantled on their A-hole. Just when you thought M80 was stable, they crumble.
Yeah, you saw the Death Ball in complete action there. Infiltrator so fast with the blast packs, just beats Sato to the punchline and makes sure that anybody else pushing out from M80, they immediately got punished. The follow-up from Winthrop University there was immaculate. And now Caillou just probably going to be saving this rifle into the next one. They didn't even have a chance to use any of their ultimates because they simply just were dead. Meanwhile, Winthrop University, a very dominant round to keep themselves in the lead.
Coming up to some Cycle of Ults soon, and Winthrop, they've just been able to farm so many kills, so I think if they can just have a good economy using those, not over-invest, it should be good. But M80 have their own ults, Nightfall for retakes, Sato's Showstopper. You just need to be able to live into that early round to really shake up Winthrop. And, well, one rifle denied from Nasi, but most importantly, Caillou keeping his.
And on top of that too, Caillou now 1 away from getting the Viper's Pit online. We talked about map control, how important that piece of the puzzle is for Winthrop University's strategy. A good way to deny a lot of map control is that good old Viper's ultimate. At this point, M80 though, they're looking a little bit rough for wear. They should be able to buy up this round, but things are going to get a little bit more tight. It's going to be that same A control struggle that we're going to be seeing. Sato, this time around, going to be a little bit more slower on this approach. I don't think Winthrop University are really going to be stopping anytime soon.
There's not that immediate smoke from B-Dog, so Winthrop have this sense of safety where as soon as their presence is shown, the paranoia and the Showstopper.
There we go.
And just M80 let it rain. And the Winthrop only have tears left behind. At least they still have the spike, which is the most insane cope in a 2 versus 5. But at least Moves was already having some headway over at C, but he did just get walled off, so a spike carrier can't even benefit from anything that's going on. And I don't think there's anything to benefit or profit. If anything, the Winthrop stocks could be going down if M80 keep just taking some of these rounds.
In this economy, that's actually par for the course, unfortunately. But that was so funny there. Moves looking like a gymnast, just walking the line, making sure that the shear doesn't go up. You can tell the surprise on Bao's face as soon as you see a Cypher just walk in front of you, even though the shear was not triggered. And still, Bao able to win out that fight, really denying any chance that Winthrop University really had at getting back into it. We're starting to see the pieces of M80 start to click together. That was an excellent little set play going there. Honestly, just a little bit of a trap. They were waiting for that go signal being the utility from Winthrop University to guarantee at least a couple kills. Very well thought out by M80.
Just to let Winthrop sneak out just a little bit, just to be out in the open. And Moves places down the cage to just see if they can block off sightlines into the door, and he takes a big ol' L. So M80 have been able to scrap together a couple of first bloods, and Winthrop know there's a vice wall to worry about. They're going to trigger that and not get separated this time. That has kind of caught that offensive team a few times. It's only going to last for a few seconds. The door has been open. And do M80 bite on the fake? Well, now there's a drone checking things out. This could get a ping onto these controllers. And Winthrop gonna surge in to benefit from that on the back of now a nightfall that for M80's defense to push it back. And it's B-Dog, who's just insane with the 3K, hosing down Winthrop in the middle of that nightfall from Okeanos. Great synergy from M80.
And it's so fun to me to watch some of the combo of utility as well as positioning work out for this M80 squad. B-Dog reawakening from that performance that we saw yesterday. But the Nightfall comes in denying, importantly, a lot of sound cues that are going on. I think that's the main reason why B-Dog was able to stay alive, because everyone was flying in not realizing where potentially B-Dog was going to be hanging out, and just got so many kills for free through that smoke. So an excellent little set play coming in from M80. And even though it was looking a little bit one-sided in those first couple of rounds, things are looking a lot more tied up.
Smoke's going to be blocking off a lobby. Again, Winthrop
They found my
just
wire.
haven't had much success making any space. It's been a really tough affair on that right side of the map. And they've made a ton of noise over at Mounts. Tejo drone first. Showstopper from Infiltrator. And he locks eyes with Caillou, but it is traded. So Winthrop have to make the most out of this opportunity. Get the plant down quickly with the smokes in place too. And close smokes don't last as long as other controllers. So Moves takes the helm and already spots that glove of the fade. Okeanos was hoping to sync up with the rest for the retake. Bao starts off in Waterfall, but can't go and do more than 1-for-1. If the trades will just keep favoring Winthrop. Sato hoops to sneak up. Covering that gap is Moves with the 3K.
It's just so aggressive from Moves there. And on top of that too, that was Winthrop University not really having like great weaponry. Infiltrator just kind of sends it, gives up the life. That's totally okay. You're able to rescue another rifle. And then Moves plays so aggressively, just completely pushing into the spawn area. Okeanos come completely off guard. No chance for anything really to get set up. And then the rest is history. Moves able to isolate just the 1vXs and take down so many key players before they even move in. So just an excellent little play coming in from Winthrop University as this next round, we're going to be seeing that Viper's Pit deployed out front of A. And look at that, Sato up top.
Okay, that's a good start from M80. The pit doesn't cover up the A wall, but hey,
No way.
Moves and friends are about to figure out where they should be going. You can identify where the weakest site is off this neural theft, and it's going to be to push B-Dog away. Playing that safe position now, waiting for the rotate maybe from Bao with the Steel Garden to come through Waterfall. But he was just making extra sure no one was pivoting towards B. So M80 is still assembling, droning out through Waterfall. Winthrop know they have space to work with, so yet another successful offensive round may be coming up. It all depends on how the ults are going to be used. Bao gets traded once again. That Waterfall push looks good, but where's the rest of M80 to finish the job? And, well, Winthrop seem to be handling the problems well, but they're also playing at Mound. They're playing at the start, and Sato's just walking up past the Sova, so it's easy for Nasi. And you have the Armageddon from Flare just to make things difficult for M80 to maneuver around the site. And it's just up to B-Dog. And he's done a good job so far. But time is running out. Spike is ticking away. In a 1v2, he can't do it.
Oh man, I was gonna question it for a second. We see Moobs just completely take over the A site while all the shenanigans were happening at C. The spike's already down, the retake's already happening, Moobs just exploring over onto A, and still finds a timing onto Caillou, and then immediately just rendezvous with the squad and applies that additional pressure. And yeah, M80, they're going to be already using their second time out here to try and pull their heads together, because these are rounds that Winthrop University, like, they're just kind of tucking themselves into these weird, awkward off angles or weird positions around the map and are getting the jump on M80 consistently. Moves the standout player. We talked about Infiltrator on the desk and how Infiltrator, was so flexible with the duelist role, so able to just find kills, be so effective. And yet this has just been the Moves show. The flanks have been immaculate coming out from the Cypher pick. Who needs the Vice to play with the team when you got the Cypher being able to take out and dismantle everyone from behind?
M80 have just done everything to delay things at C, from the Viper mollies, the Viper orbs, to the Vice wall, the Vice thorns, and Winthrop have had all the time in the world to deal with that. And there's gotta be just M80 maybe going for a jump peek at C, or just trying to really shake up Winthrop, condition them to not have all of this time. And we're gonna have a technical pause so we can deal with all the technical shenanigans at C, because it's been really ridiculous to have such a defense heavy comp of 2 controllers and a sentinel that isn't able to really cough back at Winthrop at C.
Yeah, it's so interesting because M80, they're really good at winning out that A fight. Like the initial util dump, flying through, taking that space. M80 are doing a really good job at keeping that accountable. But Winthrop University continue to be really good at pressuring out that C site. And you can tell that M80 immediately call their support units from the other sites to flood over to make sure that they can't move in onto C. And while that happens, that allows that back door to be activated from Moobs to just walk in completely. We're seeing the likes of Caillou as well as Bao, honestly, have to try and contend against Moobs the most, but when Moobs is playing this confidently, it just simply doesn't work out for them. The rounds that M80 have won are when Moobs walks into Sato, and Sato's able to find that first pick onto that Cypher, which is something you don't really expect. The Cypher to be the key component to this Winthrop University attack, and yet here we are. When Sato's able to take Moobs out, Winthrop University have a much harder time doing things. And when we see that first blood be given to M80, they're very quick at immediately moving themselves around, getting ready to punish any of the people from Winthrop University from being out of place, because the strategy of the death ball really does fall apart, and Winthrop University look a little bit more scattered.
And we were talking that we didn't really love this comp from Winthrop, at least how it did against SRB yesterday against the Breach Tejo, which seems like the superior comp because these sites are small and the Breach and the Tejo do such a good job of zoning and really helping your team explode onto the site, and you pair that with arrays and it's awesome. But M80 have a Fade, they don't have a Breach, they don't even have a Tejo. It's just delay central with not the most as good of tools to break back into the site. It would have to be a Paranoia, it would have to be Okeanos leading things in, and then Okeanos util still can be shot down. It could still have limited value, and it's B-Dog's Paranoias, and you have to also be synced up on those things, and that doesn't always happen when M80 come through different angles. You don't know if all 5 are going to be alive at that point for the retake. So I don't blame M80 for wanting to take both timeouts in this first half to just figure out what is going to be the plan to retake and how are they going to rotate in those positions.
Yeah, and on top of that too, M80, like when it comes to just the pure utility play off of each other game, I think they're doing a fantastic job. You've seen some of those like trick plays that are coming through where, the Viper's pick goes up, Sato's already on top of the box, able to find a head really quick. You can tell that a lot of those teamwork aspects are put together. And already Sato on top of it finds Infiltrator, but Nacy trades it back.
Such a good response with the Hunter's Fury in case M80 were just gonna keep putting that pressure at the door and you try to relieve that, but the smoke is still up, so Winthrop are sort of scared on how to cross that, and it's respawned back up. Nasi is split up and isolated, and the follow from Winthrop was a little slow, but at least they're getting trades. It's still very tough when Bao converts on the double kill. Moves now in a 1v2, rotating over from B. And did just spot the legs, and the jig is up. He's been revealed. Important win in that 1v1. So now this round is all up in the air.
Yeah, and on top of that too, it's Caillou going up against Moobs. Caillou has been having trouble against Moobs, and honestly, if someone was able to win this one out right now with how Moobs has been playing, this is very possible. 30 seconds left on the clock. A little bit of a misread now as Caillou wanders off. Moobs should be able to get the spike down nice and easy.
Yeah, Caillou just has no idea if he took the spike and went back to spawn, or just kept going towards A. So might as well just stay in the center of the map and rotate accordingly. 11 seconds left and having plenty of time to do so. Caillou rotating over, and Moves will have a camera at the back. Try and see, is Caillou coming from back spawn or over at B? Oh, spike been tapped. Moves rounds the corner. Caillou's looking the wrong way, and you gotta finish off what you started. And Moves saves the round for Winthrop.
That is crazy. M80 doing the most to give all of the advantages over to them on that beginning of this of the round. Sorry. You saw just the spray through, excellent countering coming in. Sato making sure to do that, gets the Hunter's Fury out as well. Bao ready to just spray them down as they walk through here. And it all comes down to Moobs just being on fire. Such map awareness, such game sense coming out alive. Make sure to win those 1vx's as Winthrop University find themselves at 8. One more round left in this hap. And quite frankly, this is a completely different Winthrop squad than what we saw previously.
This is such a good start, and you got a Steel Garden, you got a... Wow, a Showstopper, and Winthrop are not as close as Sato expected, but still some splash damage, which got Nasi down to 18 HP, so still a wobbly round for Winthrop to push forward into.
You see, this is going to be the round now that Winthrop University are going to be able to move up onto A. Only a Viper here. There's a lot of Vi's utility as well to potentially delay a little bit further. But right now, the big question is Ali, because these are the close smokes here. Bao already taken down. Ali somehow able to find 2.
That's insane. A 1v2, and this is why you justify the Clove. You play as like a pseudo duelist, especially with the ult, and that's why Ali can be so aggressive. But the judge is still gonna hurt at close range no matter how good you are, and Winthrop are still gonna be committed to this with 34 seconds left. The spike is down though, and that's something Ali and Moobs have to recover. You still have the Clove ult. And Ali, with the smokes in place, knows they have a window to work with, and the ult has been activated. But as the last one standing, Ali has to put in a heroic effort and can't do it all. It's an 8-4 half in favor of Winthrop.
And Sato coming on line there. Caillou doing an excellent job with the judge just around the corner, playing that kind of distraction tactic, allowing Sato perfect timing to just walk out with the Guardian in hand and find all the headshots necessary. As M80, they're able to scoop up 4 rounds into the half. And now we are going to be swapping sides. But so far, I've been so impressed with Winthrop University. It just feels like everything is working out for them, except for those last couple of rounds. But things, generally speaking, are coming together really well. I hope they can continue this momentum forwards, though, now that they're swapped onto this defense. Technically speaking, they don't have as much control. Relying on that initiator utility means that they must play a little bit more frag forwards. And I think that M80's kit should have enough to respond.
Yeah, with Winthrop's comp, they're very happy to play this slower style. And now this Viper's Wall from M80 letting them try to get into Rubble, but mainly Caillou plays a very passive lure style on Lotus. We saw him yesterday really not leave that A lobby side, and this is a different wall than he used previously. He's not seeing anyone go for the orb immediately. And now this is way more of an aggressive approach from Caillou to be more forward at this time. M80 maybe expecting a jump peek from Winthrop. Winthrop like to be a little silly on pistol rounds. Like they'll have like a 3 or 4 man walk up on mid. Like Winthrop will really surprise you at these moments. I'm really happy that M80 are taking a second to condition themselves.
And looks like they will be pressuring more towards C here. How you doing their best to really play that defense, or at least draw people over to this A site, and it should be effective. But down here on to C, I mean, they're gonna have to go up against moves. So let's see how this one plays out.
Yeah, just couldn't play off your own wall there. Nothing to protect you against the 2 that were stacked from Winthrop on that side. So you lose Caillou, but this was only a distraction anyway. M80 have already started planting, and they're able to get equal trades. And with where Bao was, this really drew a wrench in everything from Winthrop's retake. Still 3 versus 3. And with the Tejo drone in, some good info for Flair and friends to work with, but it doesn't matter if M80 just have better shots. And it's Ali in the 1 versus 3. Just the smoke to try and isolate this duel against B-Dog. Heads up play, 1 at Mound, and Bao on the pillar high ground. Having to find where these last players are while the spike is ticking down. Ali will be spotted. And that's all. That will be M80 taking pistol.
Yeah, great job by M80 there. Winthrop University, it felt like just a little bit of Valorant timing was coming into play. You know, they get the jump on somebody, and then Okeanos right clicks and somehow finds a head, and oh, well, there goes someone else from Winthrop University. So they're able to win out the pistol round. This time around, they're going to have the better weaponry on this second round in here. But once again, I just liked how they played it. They played it nice and slow, exactly like how you said. Waited out a lot of this utility, because how Winthrop University's kit is put together is they want to force you into weird positions. They want to force you forwards and then catch a timing and be able to gun you down. So great job by M80.
Now with the buy-up from M80, look at a win initially. They'll prowler up into C. And Caillou is going to take some pressure on the A site. So Winthrop really forcing that map control. There's also an exchange from Bao with 2 against B. We'll go 1 for 1. Depends on how this exchange goes. Okay. And Winthrop take W's on both sides of the map. So M80 kind of make quick work of getting the spike down at C in a 2 versus 2.
Speaking of classics somehow finding their shots, a little bit of ridiculousness there, down to this 2v2. Ali still has this sheriff in hand. But spike already down, Okeanos going for a little bit of a reposition.
Nade flushing out the corner. Okeanos spots out both in Mount.
Okay.
Stepping up, he just tried to reposition, I guess, instead of waiting for the repeat. And either way, that's going to be a tough duel to take against a rifle.
Yeah, great job by M80. Yet another victorious round for them. Let's hope that they can continue to stack them up here, as this is going to be the ultimate test. Winthrop University did a good job at keeping the economy a little bit shifted in their favor, finding just enough kills with those pistols to make this one a little bit more difficult for this bonus. I do believe we saw that M80 will be buying up a little bit, getting a couple more rifles in, or at least Bao will have 1 additional rifle here. It's going to be very early utility. Infiltrator almost taken down, but barely able to skate alive just on the other side of the Viper's wall.
Got down to 10 HP. Jeez, an Infiltrator obviously gets back up to full and stacks up with Flare. And usually with Flare, he's been salvoing that front door. And Winthrop gonna drone up. See if they can get to the other side of rubble. I don't think they saw much. And maybe hold their positions. And this lurk inserted at Mound got 2 kills. So M80 may just pull the spike towards that side of the map and give up this vision game against Winthrop at A.
Yeah, this time around, it's the flanker from M80, or the lurker, I should say. Bao coming alive, able to find 2 picks just by Mound, opening things up, and this is looking very reminiscent to how Winthrop University were doing the attack. Just wait for those couple of kills to come through from your Sentinel agent, and then move in for free. As P-Dog finds an unbelievable headshot onto Flare. I talked about the economy being a little bit wonky for M80, but no longer.
Yeah, on Lotus yesterday, M80 had a strong start against Qbert. Still ended up with the win. But also M80 know how to play against a deficit. Thinking about what they were down like 1 to 6 on split. Different map, but They know how to build momentum and taking that pistol and anti-eco going forward. Gonna hope to keep these rifles and Infiltrator. Well, gets one for the count, but M80 keep themselves at arm reach of Winthrop.
Oh, I was a little bit worried there for a second, seeing Sato go for the spray, missing a couple of the shots, and Infiltrator. I've seen Infiltrator do disgusting things, keeping that head on its swivel. So thankfully, no more damage was done to M80, as their economy is looking nice and solid here. And you raise a good point. M80, they're a squad that in these previous matches have been, you know, not super favorable for them, especially at the beginning, and they're able to turn them around, especially yesterday, showing their mental resiliency. And I know we talked about Winthrop University being the ones who, like, they put in the reps. They're going so many games after games after games. But I do think that M80's resiliency and just experience as well make sure that they're keeping themselves honest in this competition.
All right, Nightfall, Prowler, a lot against moves, but he's been deadly with the Sheriff, and he strikes again, but just kind of second guess whether he wanted to escape or not. He could have maybe gotten away, and Okeanos will catch him. Now with equal numbers, M80 may just push past the spike and past the site, I should say. And with being confident in their buy, I don't blame them. They also have the Steel Garden, but you don't even need it with what Winthrop have. They're going to be coming through main. The M80 line up with the smoke in place. It's going to make Winthrop difficult to go in. Placed off a flare, trying to zone off with the salvos. M80 just lock in to tie things up 8-8.
Wow, that was just an excellent read coming in from M80. Fantastic, just understanding of how Winthrop University were going to do that. As soon as Okeanos went for that plant deep on C, I was like, okay, this is unconventional to say the least, but you know, let's see what they're going to be doing. And they read it perfectly, because the bulk of Winthrop University decide to take the door, go out towards mound, and suddenly it's like a switch around as to who's on attack and who's on defense. It was played so perfectly, and the firing squad was down in so far deep onto C that even though we saw Winthrop University make an attempt at it, they were hoping to catch someone off guard out towards mound. There was simply nobody home. So just, once again, just finger on the pulse. Great job to M80 to bring themselves back and tie up our series. As now Winthrop University, they're on the other side of the coin. They're calling this timeout now because M80 are really starting to gain momentum after 4 rounds in a row.
M80 are so deadly on the offense, which I don't know where your expectations would be at with like a double controller and like a Vice Sentinel. Like, it's not as flashy as like a Breach Tejo or other things like, oh, actually that's their comp. And just with the Fade too, it's not a Breach, it's very info based. So M80, they went on an absolute tear against Qbert just for win streaking like crazy, getting super rich off of just winning all of their offensive rounds, and that's starting to build a lot of wind in their sails. Interesting setup for moves too, to just have all the Sentinel util, the trips pretty deep into A, and a camera watching over around tree area.
I'll find you.
That's interesting. This time around, we're seeing the push out from the C defense from Winthrop University, as it looks like it's going to be more of an intel game that Winthrop want to really capitalize on. We talked about how important map control was for Winthrop University on the attack, and we see their attempts right now at trying to reclaim some of the map back together. As M80, their sights are set onto this A site. Moves in the back line, and Ali going for the jump peak actually spots quite a few of these people out here. So M80, they actually decide to pivot over and commit the ultimate onto this B site.
Steel Garden, just gonna flush anyone out. Winthrop, though, aren't smoked off, so it's a showstopper that breaks in. Infiltrator couldn't get his gun up, and M80 were just quicker to react. Sato has been such a true star for M80, and I think it was hard for Nasi to try and retake with an Odin anyway. So M80 get the lead back.
Oh man, you can see it. Boobs was just like walking in and then saw that dark cover fly across. I was like, wait a second, uh-oh. And then that's got to feel good for B-Dog, outflanking the flanker. And honestly, I think that retake from Winthrop University was a little bit of an interesting tactic. They just decide to just flood in and try and take it the speed advantage. Something to keep in mind about their composition, they don't really have very effective flashes to utilize against this squad. So that retake is going to be difficult every single time. M80 just being able to win out that gun duel, but okay. I might have spoke too soon, Jen.
What the hell? It's just, seriously, the sheriffs hit different through the boxes. And it just, when it rains and pours, the Thrifty is about to possibly be a flawless. Are we serious? And well, all these guns are also being dropped in spawns, so like Winthrop would love these upgrades, and maybe, especially with the spike down, they're just gonna send it as a team so they could pick up these rifles. And Caillou, well, his job is done, and that was to lurk around A, but he ain't got a team to plan with, so GG, I guess.
Yeah, and that's great for Winthrop because they're able to rescue all those rifles too, so makes the economy just a little bit stronger here. Of note, Nasi did end up using the Hunter's Fury. I think that might have been a little bit too proactive there. Of course, you want to be able to win a round back when we've swapped these sides, but making sure that you take that ultimate out of Winthrop University's pocket is something that M80 are probably going to be pretty happy about. So let's see how this next one goes out. But yeah, like you said, those shares hit a little bit diff.
You just can't be mental boomed about this, right? Like, just no random double kill through the box, like. And then Ali is still trying to convert things too in the 5 versus 3, so it's, you can always come back when you got the rifles at a 3v5, but man, just M80 gotta lock in. You can't let that happen.
Yeah, you definitely can't. And once again, we're seeing some shenanigans out onto the safe side. Showstopper available for Sato. Bao going to potentially punish this aggression.
Walking up, Bao doesn't want that smoke, and now worried that Ali is gonna catch him. But now the ult, Ali's back into the fight, and Bao's holding his own, 10 HP, and there's more problems ahead. Meanwhile, M80 benefited from that distraction, and it's the Nightfall from Okeanos to ward away the storm that they think is up close from Winthrop. And right next door is Infiltrator and friends, and Flare tries to solo push through tree, and no util, and Ali gets revenge. We're at a 2 versus 2 somehow, and it's all thanks to Bao even making this close. M80 on the post plant, working together, have to cross the orb, address the angle one by one. As soon as it drops, the quicker to the trigger is M80.
B-Dog pulling out the Omen tech. Just going on top of the door while it's still rotating. Tried to get a cheeky little kill there, not able to find it. A little bit too wise to that one. But yeah, like you said, Bao just really locking down the far push. I talked about how Winthrop University's composition has to play. It's got to play frag forwards. They got to be so fast. They got to be aggressive moving in onto things. And the fact that Bao was able to punish that, slow it down for a second, give M80 plenty of time to get themselves set up is the main win condition. So fantastic job from Bao to make sure that that is secured. M80 once again in the lead, but this is going to be the buy-up round for Winthrop University.
Open sight lines. Prowler to check around through baby door, but M80 separated by smoke, and Sato gets pinged around rubble. So Winthrop hold their ground. Teho drone to get some information for the defense so they can spam through the smoke, and that's why Nazi just keeps buying up this Odin. Last time it was to cover C, and this time he helps out at A. This is M80 starting a little bit behind. Even Sato's HP is low, so satcheling and being aggressive may not be the move. Okeanos just takes paint shell damage, so M80 are kind of stuck waiting for Winthrop to make a move off of this advantage.
And that was just an excellent hold from Winthrop. Use that utility, deny any of that space, make it so difficult for M80 to do anything. And now the firing squad is just waiting for them to aggress.
Paranoia, Ali just shooting as best as they can through the door, but still M80 found a great pivot into the site. You got the salvos from Flare to delay things. Will play out and at a different retake angle. We know the spike still gets planted at A. because Flair just limited their options, and Moob just falls and still manages to adjust his accuracy. And Winthrop have managed to equal these numbers, but it's just too little too late. M80 just one step closer to taking map 1.
And Okeanos really being the clutch factor for M80 on that last round. Clears out that A site when they decide to make a pivot over to B, and then immediately just goes in there and frags out yet again, keeping them into this. Obviously, Okeanos previously on that duelist role for so many different teams. And before Sato was able to join M80, stepped in as the duelist as well. So you know that the kid can frag. But moving on to this initiator role, I've been very impressed with what Okeanos has brought to this M80 squad. Sure, Sato, the rising star duelist, gonna go in there, find so many kills, but the initiators always follow in afterwards. And we see that Okeanos is really picking up the slack on some after that first initial engagement happens, and Okeanos is usually good for a couple of kills, bringing M80 back in these rounds where it doesn't feel like they've got a single chance. So Winthrop University feeling the pressure just a little bit, the temperature rising, and they call yet their second time out here as M80 are looking to secure map number 1 shortly.
Yeah, Sato has only been a boon to this team ever since he joined, and you could say the same thing about the addition of Ali, where yesterday was a much more quieter performance on the Clove, and definitely stepping up, being way more aggressive, and namely just winning a lot of these duels and getting value from the ult and just being impactful for Winthrop. And this match is pretty neck and neck, and this is a best of 5, so we've got a lot of Valorant ahead of us. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Caillou will hold a lobby, but Winthrop got the orb. He'll have an Armageddon with Flair over at B. Just a solo sentinel from Winthrop to hold back anything over at C while the camera is up. M80 also have a deep insert of B-Dog at B, knowing that, well, Winthrop sometimes walk down that lane, and Infiltrator gets information on where that lurk is and has taken early damage. Moves also has a sheriff, so not the most ideal buy for Winthrop compared to what M80 have.
Oh, jeez. Armageddon gets tossed out as well. Excellent job from M80. Just Okeanos alone draws so much fire, so many resources towards that A site. Caillou, Ali's able to find Sato here. Nasi down to 5 HP. Ali not done yet.
Would have maybe liked that Armageddon for the retake at C and just reacted maybe a bit too quickly for Winthrop, expecting M80 to just rush through a lobby when the hit was actually at C. And now with the Viper's Pit, you don't have the best of tools besides a drone, some shock bolts, and Ali just fragging out. Ali's just within this pit too. Nasi can't really do much, being already 10 HP, so M80 on match point.
Match point.
Oh man, and once again, that was just all Okeanos, creating so much discomfort for Winthrop University. It felt like Winthrop University, they've seen Okeanos with the main squad consistently. And so spotting that fade out caused so many questions as to what the heck was going on. You see that investment comes in just simply because, oh my goodness, we've spotted the fade. This has to be the hit over onto A site. And they just get away with C for free. An excellent little kind of distraction play coming in from M80. As like you said, on match point, Winthrop University, 3 chances to force OT.
Poison's off.
At least Winthrop did what they could with this buy. But Caillou, if Winthrop tries to be aggressive, he'll have the Vice Wall up too, trying to isolate that, and Caillou will be there to capitalize. So a very passive approach from M80, maybe trying to punish if Winthrop get desperate, but Winthrop are just gonna keep the map control that they have and maybe even think about a B walk-up. Look at this 3-stack from Winthrop. And if they hear noise from M80 at C, this B-Link door could be opened and M80 could face a lot of trouble, all depending on if Moves can hold his own on the front lines. Got an engagement against B-Dog, and well-timed util will give him the edge. Now Moves needs help. Reinforcements coming through Waterfall, not through that B-Link door. And the wins are coming. Winthrop sway at a lesser buy than M80. But Winthrop have to play flawless from here on out if they hope to face an overtime against a top 3 team in Challengers.
Oh.
Winthrop get up to 10.
If Caillou found that first bullet onto Moves' head, I think that would have been a different story there, but just excellent job from Winthrop University, keeping the Storm at bay. And like you said, it was like that death ball competition. You see them push out a B and immediately just double back around. They were moving those 3 members just around the map, trying to guess where M80 was going to be to make sure to spring the trap onto them. Whenever M80 have that numbers advantage, they do usually a pretty good job of being able to deny it. But who else but Moves, staying alive in the back of C, punishing everything that could potentially happen. Classic util dump, B-Dog this time with an operator in hand, is going to get the heck out of there.
I don't blame him. With the salvos that hit and the Viper wall, I'm really very glad to keep all 5 alive, but B-Dog brought down the half HP. How many numbers are on Winthrop and the right side of the map? I made him make the call. We gotta hit C. We gotta deal with usually throwing out their Prowler to deal with all these trips. There is one and not the second. But the Steel Gardens used from Bao. This is gonna limit what Moves can use, but he's got the Neural Theft and Winthrop about to flank through B, and what a timing! Oh, the mid showstopper! What the heck? B-Dog is somehow still alive. He's like a cat. He has 9 lives, and he still has the op. The showstopper, of course, now gets fired, and now it gets Moves. And Winthrop have to turn around a 3v5 to keep themselves alive on Lotus, and it's a Nightfall from M80. And it just gets worse and worse, but Winthrop, it's like they play better when they're down for the count. A huge double kill from Ali. Evens up the playing field. But there is the finish, and there is M80 winning their best map of Lotus.
Coming back into it, starting it off a little bit shaky, an 8-4 half for Winthrop University, and then as soon as the tables turn, M80 come alive. I am so impressed by how they were playing off of one another utility-wise, making sure to not overextend it. You think, oh, well, let's use a showstopper to enter. No, we've got a couple of other ultimates. Let's be smart about how we're using our utility, how we're using our ultimates, and playing off of one another. A fantastic job from M80 coming into this one. And yeah, like you said, Jen, they're able to take map number 1 away from Winthrop University.
That was still close. 13-10 after this is M80's statistically their best map. And Winthrop didn't look so hot on it yesterday, and even compositionally, people may have some comments about it, but Winthrop are just performing way better today. Despite losing this, I think we have a series on our hands, and coming up next, we have Haven. But first, we want to hear from the desk, so don't go anywhere.
Damn, I'm not gonna lie, I would not know at all. So I'm trying to think, I probably can remember like Bowie, Brock, me, that's it, like I don't know anyone else. So I'll probably guess 8.
Bro. What? Okay. And this is an NA Challengers, correct? I have 2 right now. I know there's B-Dog, there's Brock, Bob, that's 3. Oh, my old teammate Bao, that's 4. It's kind of hard. BCJ, oh dude, if I forgot BCJ, that would have been bad. Boy, I think that's 6. I don't know if I said 5 or 6. Did I say all of them, or am I tripping? Oh wait, yeah, okay, you didn't ask me to name all of them. Wait, I'm brain dead. I'll say 7. Is that fine?
Yeah, 7, 8, or 9. Yeah, let's do this. This is proper. So first team, rankers. Ion Fire, and Spotted, be there. Gangster, Exton, M80, Bao, and then Academy, T-Dog. I would say it's probably those 6. I'd say 6. It's around every team with just 60 teams. I would say 6.
Can I take some time to think here? Is that okay? Or yeah, okay. Starting with the letter B. You said 6, 9, 7, I would say.
Okay, like I'm missing so much players. Okay. Oh, there's Benji as well. Oops. Yep. Okay, I didn't mention Bowie, but I do know. Yeah, he's on Hakikimori. I was right. I forgot a player. That wasn't too bad. I completely forgot about Benji and Bonnie. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry to those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. B-Dog, I forgot about him on M80. Right. Well, I guess the Bs are not the best in the league right now. B-Dog, BCJ, sure, but...
9. I can't even think of it.